Hi everyone. Hey, our job today is to learn to multiply decimal numbers. I've got some great news for you. Multiplying decimal numbers is the same as multiplying whole numbers until the very last step. So nothing is different except when you get to the last step and you figure out where to place the decimal. That'll be the only thing that we need to add to what you already know about multiplying. So a couple of tips here. First of all, even though we lined up the decimals when we were adding or subtracting, we don't line up the decimals when we're multiplying. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, is that they want to line up the decimals when you're multiplying. Don't do that. We're going to put the longer number on the top. It might not necessarily be the bigger number, but it'll be the number with most digits goes on the top. That'll save us work. We're going to multiply like we normally do. We're going to add the columns like we normally do. We're going to remember that when we move down a line, we're adding a 0. When we move down 2 lines, we're adding 2 zeros. So now it's at the very end that our difference comes in. We're going to count the number of decimal places in both numbers. In other words, the number of numbers that are behind a decimal in both numbers, the top number and the bottom number in our multiplication problem. And then we're going to place our decimal that many places, counting from the right to the left in our answer. And I'll show you an example of that in just a second here. Okay, so our first problem is 9 times 0 and 4/10. Another hint is to leave off that beginning 0 where the ones place is. If you don't have any other numbers here, if it's just a lead 0, you can leave that 0 off. It'll make your life easier as well. So we've got just 9 times 4. Of course, we know that with our basic facts, 9 times 4 is 36. All right, so everything has been the same so far as regular multiplication. Now we're going to count how many numbers are behind a decimal point in our total problem. No numbers behind a decimal point here, one number behind a decimal point here. And so counting from the right and moving to the left, we're going to place the decimal point in one space. So one number behind the decimal point here, one number to the right of the decimal point here. Okay, so our next problem is set up for us here. We've got 6/10 times 4/10. Notice I've left off those initial zeros because we don't really need those. 6 times 4 is 24, and now I'm ready to place my decimal. So I've got one number behind the decimal point, or one number to the right of the decimal point in the top, one number to the right of the decimal point in the bottom, and so I want a total of 2 numbers behind the decimal point in the problem. So 1, 2, my decimal point needs to go here. So 24 hundredths is the answer to this problem. Now I want you to notice over here that the decimal points did line up. That was just incidental. I didn't do that on purpose. It's just that they were both 6/10 and 4/10. They were both the same place value, and so that's why the decimal points lined up. Now over here I've got our next problem. We have 12 hundredths times 6/10. When we multiply 6 times 12, 6 times 2 is 12, carry my 1, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. We get 72. And now it's time to place our decimal. Notice I did not line up these decimals at all. I just let them fall where they would. And notice that I kept the longer number on the top and the shorter number on the bottom. All right, so we've got 1 place value to the right of the decimal here and 2 place values to the right of the decimal up here for a total of 3. Now we've only got 1, 2, and I bet most of you are thinking, yeah, we just need to add a 0, and you're right. We need a 0 here so that we can have a total of 3 numbers behind the decimal point in this answer. So 12 hundredths times 6/10 gives us 72 thousandths. Okay, next problem here. We have 3 and 4 hundredths times 1 and 6/10. I multiplied 6 times 4. I got 24. I put my 4 down, carried my 2. 6 times 0 is 0. Then I have plus 2, so there's where that 2 came from. 6 times 3 is 18. Now I'm moving over a digit, and so I have to put a 0 in for my placeholder since I'm moving down a row here. And now we multiply. 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 3 is 3. Add these up. 4 plus 0 is 4, 2 plus 4 is 6, 8 plus 0 is 8, 1 plus 3 is 4. Now we're ready to place our decimal. So we've got 1, 2, 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point total in the problem. So 1, 2, 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point total in the answer. So our answer 2, 3 and 4 hundredths times 1 and 6 tenths is 4 and 864 thousandths. All right, let's look at our next problem here. So we have 5 and 23 hundredths times 4 and 2 tenths. We're going to multiply 2 times 3 to get 6, 2 times 2 to get 4, 2 times 5 to get 10. We're moving over a place value, so we add a 0. We've got 4 times 3 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and 4 times 5 is 20. This is an example of where we've saved ourselves work by having the longer number on the top. If we had reversed this, we would have had to have 3 rows here instead of just the 2. So we want the number with the shorter digits on the bottom. All right, now I add my columns up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 4 plus 2 is 6. 0 and 9 is 9. 1 and 0 and 1 is 1. And 2 plus nothing is 2. All right, let's place that decimal point. So we've got 1 number behind the decimal point, or 1 number to the right of the decimal point here. 2, 3 total. So 1, 2, 3 total. So 5 and 23 hundredths times 4 and 2 tenths is 21 and 966 thousandths. Okay, for our last problem here, and it's a long one, we've got 90 and 71 hundredths times 333. So again, number with the shortest amount of digits on the bottom. Now the nice thing is I'm just multiplying by 3 over and over again. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 7 is 21, put my 1 down, carry my 2. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2, and then 3 times 9 is 27. Okay, so I took care of this digit, that one's done. Now I'm moving over a place value, so I add a 0 place value holder here. And the good news is I've already multiplied this by 3, so I can just take this number and rewrite it. So I've got a 3, a 1, a 2, a 7, a 2, just like this, 3, 1, 2, 7, 2. All right, so I've taken care of that digit, and now I'm multiplying by 3 again, but I've moved over 2 place values, so I need 2 zeros here, and then rewriting that number 3, 1, 2, 7, 2. Now you can see here, well, it's real important to keep your columns nice and lined up, because if you didn't, you would add these incorrectly. So 3 plus 0 is 3, 3 and 1 is 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, carry my 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 2 is 12, carry my 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, carry my 1, 3. All right, so let's place that decimal. We've got only 2 numbers behind the decimal point in the top number, no numbers behind the decimal point in the bottom number, and so we're just going to move that decimal point in 2 places from the right, and so our answer should be 30,206 and 43 hundredths. I think I'd like that to be my payday right there. All right, guys, you have learned everything you need to know about multiplying decimals, so go on and do some practice.